Hello everybody, this is Rosario Ibarra, Building and Capital Services Advisor for the Disciples Church Extension Fund. I'm going to present to you today the workshop on budgeting and stewardship. Let's start. The objectives of the workshop are: number 1, reflect on the stewardship culture; number 2, align budget with purpose and mission; number 3, budgeting forecasting; and number 4, the allocation of resources. Let me share with you an information before. The Lake Institute on Faith and Giving did a nationwide survey with more than 500 congregational leaders. And they asked some questions such as, what are the congregational trends in participation and giving during the current pandemic? With increasing uncertainty around financial support, how have congregations responded? And what are congregations expecting over 2021 for their organizational and financial future? Among the answers they received, they have that since March, a plurality of congregations, 41%, reported a decline in giving. Also, Catholic parishes and small congregations under 50 weekly participants reported declines in participation and giving more often than any other groups. Finally, while most congregations are planning to move forward without significant budget cuts, not a single congregation expects to increase the 2021 budget. And a slight majority, 52% of congregations, hope to maintain the current budgets over the next year. Mainline Protestants remain right in the middle, with half hoping to maintain current revenues and the other half anticipating small shortfalls. A stewardship culture. Let me tell you that the stewardship culture starts with the mindset and perspective of the congregational leadership. Let me share with you a story of 2 congregations. About 10 years ago, a congregation ended its ministry in a church building in Flint, Michigan. Unfortunately, the building had a mortgage loan and the region had to continue making the loan payments. However, the regional minister called out of state a church planter to start a new church in the same building, with the expectation, of course, that when the new church becomes stronger, the congregation take over the loan payments. Pastor Gilliard moved to Flint back in 2009, and first of all, he started assessing the needs of the community. And he realized that there was not a preschool available for children of low-income families. So he started a Head Start school at the church location while sharing space with the new congregation. However, the school grew and the congregation realized that there was not enough space for them to develop their regular church activities. Fortunately, there was a facility across the church building that was available for leasing, a former bingo. The new congregation, Triumphant Temple of Praise, leased and remodeled for the church activities. At this point, the congregation was already making the loan payments. Pastor Gilliard found another need in the community, a senior center, a center for seniors, also more specifically a daycare for seniors. And he decided to purchase the property he was leasing and sign a lease agreement with the option to purchase. The property was already receiving income from 2 small businesses that use the parking lot for storage, and he estimated that the congregation could be able to pay the mortgage for the two properties, also counting that the small businesses were going to continue leasing space from the parking lot. I met with the congregation back in 2014, and in 2015 the congregation refinanced the loan they had and obtained additional funds to purchase the second building. Up to date, the congregation has continued making the loan payments on time and has expanded its ministry and service to the community. And this is the tale of two congregations. For one congregation, there was no possibility to continue and they had to close the ministry. For this new congregation, the Triumphant Temple of Praise, coming to this building, it was a great opportunity to minister that community. So what was the difference? The perspective, ambition of the congregation, and also they were responding to God's call and to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. And something else, Pastor Gilliard did that, also having a full-time work in another company. He was working part-time with the church, but also he had the support of a good leadership that he established. That's the mindset perspective. Regarding education and preparation, the National Study of Congregations' Economic Practices found that revenue growth was more prevalent among congregations that regularly discussed the theological importance of giving through sermons, money management classes, etc. Therefore, there is a difference between talking and stewardship throughout the whole year, or talking also just when the stewardship campaign is coming. And the questions will be: is there a stewardship commitment in place? Is this committee diverse? In other words, does it include people from several departments, from the youth department, the benevolence department, the children ministry? And what our congregation can offer in terms of time, gifts, building assets, and skills? Is always to be prepared for the stewardship campaign every year. The other issue to take is community strength. And there also the questions will be: how strong is the church community? Is it a united congregation where people care for each other? Is this a congregation in which people feel welcome, cared for, and connected? Are we celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, or mourning together, even if only we can do it virtually? Remember, we can have strong gifts as individuals, but when we work as a team, we as a church are stronger. A strong congregation can have definitely a bigger impact on the community when they are together. When we have disagreements, the possibility to influence the community, to help the community, diminishes. I just was speaking half an hour ago with a small congregation in Arizona, and they told me that obviously they have financial issues, were struggling, but the good thing is that the elders continue caring from each other. And that is helping the congregation to continue moving forward in the ministry. Another important point is focus on purpose and mission. And this is the main reason why people give to a congregation. So as a congregation, you have to always ask, what is your why? Why are you located in this place? Who are you serving? Do you know who are you serving? Why was the congregation established in this place? And then why a member of your congregation or even a guest should contribute to your stewardship campaign? What are the ministries that the church is offering to the community? Are they aligned with the values of the congregation? Remember, right now, there are several organizations, non-profit organizations, that are doing very good things in the world. We have World Mission, Leukemia Society, St. Jude, Save Trees, PETA, you name it. And then, what is the difference that your congregation is making in the lives of the people? That is very important. So we need to listen to understand our community and also to understand how generations contribute. Remember, boomers and the former generations, they give because it's a given. They were raised like that. They are accustomed to give. They don't. For them is out of duty. But for the Gen X and younger generations, they need to be persuaded to give. They will only give to causes that they are passionate about. Let's go to the next slide. We need to plan the use of our resources, the budget. Planification is key. How will the financial resources be used? What ministries they will fund? How are we going to manage our assets, the buildings and maybe saving accounts? How are we going to do it? Do we need to start or expand our ministries? Do we need to stop maybe some ministries? Do we need to suspend temporarily? Do we need to partner with others? There are several things that we need to take to review in doing our budget. Also, communication is key and is very important. Oops, I went to the other slide. Communicate consistently the purpose and mission of your congregation. Does the congregation know what is the purpose of mission? Or do they know? Do the leaders know? I can tell you that I have visited several times. I have met with leaders of congregations, and out of 10 people, maybe just 5 can name some sort of, this is the vision of the congregation. And sometimes they are different visions. They don't know exactly, or maybe just the pastor knows what is the purpose and mission of the congregation. So we cannot do like that. In this kind of, there are several ways to communicate, not just the newsletter, the regular mail, but also the social platforms. We need to communicate consistently. Maybe in every board meeting, maybe in small groups, people need to know. And if you have a mission over 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you need to revisit it. But you need to communicate. Oops, I went again to the other thing. And then we need to show different ways to contribute. People is sending their envelopes with by the regular mail, but also you need to schedule a date and time so people can drop off the envelopes. Some congregations contribute online. Others can do electronic transfer from their bank accounts. Maybe the more sophisticated congregations have apps, or they can by text they can start doing donations. So you need to put different ways to give to the people. And also a question, remember we start with the mindset and perspective. Also we need to close with perspective, mindset, and attitude. Be grateful and joyful. Grateful for the resources that your congregation already has. Grateful for the people that give generously, not just financial resources, but also they give their time, their gifts, their resources. At these points, I cannot tell you how many elders and leaders of congregations are working to care for each other. And that is very important. To have so many volunteers at the church. Also be grateful for the building that you already received, or maybe you help to build, or maybe you are, because that building allows you to continue serving the community. Obviously grateful to God who has called us to serve and has given us the opportunity to make a difference in the life of the community. We are fulfilled when we serve others. Grateful also to the stewardship committee, and then we need to celebrate and acknowledge the generous donors that allow the ministry to continue. Provide thank you notes, provide cards, etc. Remember, Henry Newman reminds us that every time I take a step in the direction of generosity, I know I am moving from fear to love. So we give because we acknowledge that we have received a lot. Let's see, let's go to the other slide, different way to contribute, maybe just to illustrate how many different ways to contribute, right? Let's go. Questions to reflect. How is the stewardship culture in your congregation? What steps can you take to improve your stewardship culture? Maybe you can reflect about it with your leaders, with your stewardship committee, but it's always good to reflect on the things that we are doing continuously to see how to improve, because there is always room to improve. Let's go to the second part. Let's go to the budget per se. What is the budget? The budget is a tool to accomplish your purpose and mission, the purpose and mission of the congregation. Obviously, at this point, the big challenge is the uncertainty. Uncertainty to estimate the future revenue. Although the survey said that the mainline churches don't expect too much to reduce, but case by case, the situation could be different. So there is some uncertainty. Attendance have dropped, obviously, because even when buildings are open, not everyone is going back to the building because for health issues, out of caution. Some members might have lost their jobs. Some business owners are not doing well either, and their income have decreased. Also, some churches have lost their rental income for the buildings. And I have found that there are several congregations that are in transition, either because the minister retired or because the ministry moved out of the church to another congregation or out of state. But also, along with challenges, always opportunities come. Maybe, I think for the last 2-3 decades, churches have been talking about we need to find a new way to do church. The culture is not the same. Although maybe some people are stuck in the churches in the 60s, 50s. No, we are not the same. And there is a way that we need to find a new church. And in a way, we are doing that. We are doing that because not many churches were doing virtual or online services. But now everybody is almost forced to do that in a way to continue having the worship services, right? So the opportunity is, maybe this is the time to clarify what is the purpose and mission of the congregation, or to identify, maybe to rethink the ministry plan, the strategic plan, and what are the priorities of the congregation. Because when we see a budget, when we see a budget, we can read almost immediately what are the priorities and values of the congregation. God is compelling us to find a new way to do ministry. And also, we have the opportunity to reach not in our community, but out of our walls. I have heard several stories of churches that are reaching out people out of state and even out of the country. And even churches have the opportunity to receive donations from people out of state and maybe from people that were never going to be at the church, but they were compelled because they saw the mission and ministry of the congregation. And then this is time to strengthen our faith, our hope. As Hebrews says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. There is always a relationship between budget and purpose and mission. The first point is the stewardship culture, but we already talked about it. Then the main priorities. What are the main priorities of your ministry plan? Again, what is the purpose and mission of the congregation? Does the congregation have a clear purpose and mission, a clear sense of God's call? Does the congregation have a ministry plan, or when they did the last one, did they update it? How are we going to manage our assets, all that we have? It's good to give thought, to think about it carefully, especially for next year and for the future. I think this is the pandemic time. Also, it has been a good time to reflect and meditate in our ministry. And also how the budget can express the congregation values. What is the story that the congregation is telling to the community, to the neighborhood in which they are located? What values are we communicated? For example, when our building is accessible, we are communicating to the community that we are welcoming to people with disabilities. When we open our building, maybe now it's kind of tricky because we cannot open as before, but when we think about how to attract, give a good welcoming for the congregation, we need to be sensitive to their needs. Because for example, when we're having support groups, we are telling to people that we understand what they are going through and we are trying to help. And it's always good to engage people from all the ministries, as I said before. When everybody is included in the budgeting process, it promotes buying. It will take more time, but for sure, it will instill ownership and responsibility in the congregation. Now we can go to the next one, the story. What is the story of the congregation? What is this? But also need to learn what is the story of the people that we're serving. Do the neighbors, do they know who we are, and do we know who they are? It's very important that also to communicate, because if we're doing a great ministry and nobody knows, what is the point, right? It's also good for the congregation that if they have a ministry for the homeless, of serving meals, that there should be some sort of videos and information that can say, wow, I'm contributing financially to this ministry, and I know the difference that is going in the life of the people. That is very rewarding. And it's priceless too. It's priceless. And again, we need to evaluate carefully. What ministries do we need to start? What ministry do we need to expand? For sure, if your church didn't have an online ministry before, you already started or need to start. If your church was having a meals ministry, maybe you are expanding. And I tell you, for real, First Christian Church in Portland, when the pandemic started, they realized that other nonprofit organizations that were helping the community, they didn't have funds anymore, they have to close. Also, the church saw the need to increase that ministry, and they started doing some fundraising, but because they needed additional funds, they got the PPP loan, and also they got an emergency loan from us. So they also estimated how much was the cost to do that. So it's very important that you're going to expand, what is going to cost us. And then what ministries we need to end, because sometimes ministries are not relevant anymore. So do we need to start, or we need to suspend for a while because it's not healthy to do it at this time. So we always need to be mindful of that. Revenue. When estimating the revenues, we need to analyze the 2020 trends. How did it change in relationship to the last year? Did it decline? Did it increase? And is this decline in 5%, 10%, or more? We need to review it. And maybe to do something similar to what maybe the budget next year will be something similar at the budget of this year for real. The actual budget, not the one forecasted last year. And also it's important to connect with the donors. How are our donors doing? We need to listen to them. Are they still working? Are they feel doing well? Are they isolated, depressed? What do they need? Will they be able to contribute at the same level that this year? Will they be able to increase? Or maybe their income is going to decrease? Did we lose donors? Can we expand the number of donors? And also we need to be sensitive to the needs of the people. Building use. Can we continue bringing tenants to the building? What kind of tenants? I learned that the churches that were renting to Head Start school, they they didn't have any issue with the income. The income is still coming. But some congregations that were renting from others, they left the buildings. So you need to review to forecast how much is going to be for next year. And then explore other sources of income. Can we generate other sources of income? Do we need to partner with any other organization? And again, let me tell you another story. There is a church in Indianapolis, East Christian Church in Indiana, that was like a few years ago, too, before the pandemic. They realized that the educational building was not being used at all. And I think that this is a pattern for several congregations. So they started discerning, praying, what we can do, because it's not good to stewardship having a building and not using it at all. So they were able to be in contact with a non-profit organization that was started a daycare for seniors. And also this congregation realized that the neighborhood was an aging community. So this non-profit organization is affiliated with the Methodist Church, and then they decided to work together. And they have to update the building to put it up to code. Also, they got a loan from us, and the nonprofit started the daycare center for seniors. And it was a double blessing, as we say, because it generated income from the congregation for the lease, but also it opened the opportunity to have a new ministry for the church. The people were very excited because they were able to minister not just for the seniors who came every day to the center, but also to the whole families. So they were exploring another source of income. It's not just for the sake of getting income, it's for the sake of how we are continuing reaching out to others, serving others. And obviously we need to be very creative in doing fundraising activities. Maybe we cannot have as before the regular yard sales, but we need to do the online fundraising. And there are several ways to do online activities. And grants. There are grants funding for faith-based organizations from private foundations and state and federal funding sources, even from cities. And let me tell you another story for another congregation in Utah. This congregation was giving also meals to the community, and when the pandemic came, obviously the income declined initially, and they were kind of concerned because they were not going to be able to continue the ministry. But they learned that the city was offering some grants, and they applied for grants, and they got 2 grants. One grant to continue the meals ministry, and a second grant to purchase another freezer that they really needed. So there is always a way to find resources to continue the ministry. Let's go to the next slide. On the area of the expenses, obviously we need to check the salaries, the percentage, staffing needs, and then we need to ask, can people functions be reallocated? Do we need to rewrite the job description of the people? Do the current staff have the skills to do the virtual ministry? Do we need to hire a leader for media or virtual ministry? Do we need to have less staff or cut hours or flexible hours? We also need to review that. And then what are going to be the building needs regarding maintenance and utilities? Can utilities or other expenses be negotiated, or can we change providers, or can we eliminate some expenses? Can we reduce the insurance premiums, or maybe we need to go to another broker? Do we need to invest in energy efficient equipment? What about the deferred maintenance? And then again, ministry and partnership. Let me tell you another story. Saguaro Christian Church in Tucson. When I met them a few years ago, they were also they realized, well, the church realized that in the east part of the city there were a lot of low-income families, and they wanted to start a meals ministry, but they didn't start by themselves. So they knew that they learned that there was a non-profit organization that was already helping that area, so they started working together using the facilities, the kitchen, and the congregation. And at some point, when I met with them, they had the plan to expand the kitchen, to modernize the kitchen, to be like a satellite for this nonprofit to train other congregations. So the ministry was multiplying, and they did that. And the ministry is growing, and they continue serving the east part of the city. So, and then if your congregation has a debt, are you able to renegotiate the debt? You have to talk with the lender. Maybe there's a way to reduce cost or start paying twice a month. You need to check it out. And obviously, there's the puzzle of how to reallocate their resources among all the ministries and expenses needed for the church. Then, according to our experience, the operating expenses it's recommended that they spend in this way. For salary support, it's recommended to spend 50%. For building administration, 25%. For programs, 15%, and for the mission, 10%. So that is the ideal. I know that is not always happening at the churches, but this would be the goal for a healthy church. Because unfortunately, sometimes when the budget is tight, the first thing that are cut are the mission and programs. We don't advise that, because I think that is the life of the church, the programs and mission. Let's go to the next slide. Other considerations, we need to review the assets. You have endowments. Please don't use the endowments to cover the deficit in the budget. That's not healthy at all. Otherwise, is the church declining. So be careful. Maybe you can use the annual distribution income. You can increase it. Maybe you need to review that. You need also to review the policies. And we always recommend to have emergency funds. Many congregations that have emergency funds, it was helpful for them during this time, and also for summer. Summer is obviously the income decline. It's good to have building funds for 3-6 months, and put it not as the last item in the budget, because if you put it on the last item, you will say, no, there's no money, there's not enough. You have to put it as a priority, and also have a building fund, because you never know when you need a new HVAC, a new heater, and when winter is coming, people cannot be at the church without the proper heating, right? And again, you need to analyze the potential capital improvements. Maybe the roof is going to the end of the life. You need $30,000, $50,000. We don't know, but we need also to review potential major expenses. And mindful of the policies and procedures. As we always say, the treasury position should be a rotating position. I know that many churches would say, no, that's fine, but I can tell you that some congregations have the same treasurer for 20 years, 30 years, and for any reason the treasurer is not at the congregation, people don't know what is happening with the finances. So it's really good to have also a backup. And regarding the policies, it's always advisable to have several controls. The person who does the check shouldn't be the person who signs or the person who authorizes. It should be different people. Other considerations, when do the budget, always consider the best and worst scenarios. What happens if you forecast, for example, just to say a number, 100,000 and then you receive 90,000? How are you going to allocate the resources? And then if you have more income, what are you going to do with more income? And again, communication and transparency is important. Obviously, congregations should know how the funds are used. It's better Also to know people will know the impact they are doing in the community. And be flexible, because nothing is written in stone, right? We need to be flexible. And the cash flow, you have to preview when there are some months that maybe there are bigger expenses. You need to have the liquidity. For example, in the fall, sometimes churches need to pay for the insurance. They need the money in order to avoid also charges from the bank. And then you need to monitor carefully the budget. You need to have the statement of activities, meaning the income and expenses every month, financial positions, the balance sheet, assets, liabilities, and equity, and the cash flow to manage the liquidity that you need. And also do the comparison between actual and budgeting. And when you need to reallocate, you have to monitor carefully, because your budget is flexible. Remember, the budget process is a cycle. It always starts with a vision and ministry plan. And then when you have that clear, you can do the forecasting, then you implement, you monitor, you adjust. And again, the mandatory thing is the vision and ministry plan. Then you do the forecasting or projection, you implement, you monitor, and you adjust. This goes always every month, every quarter. You need to review carefully, preferably every month. And a question to reflect. How is the budget expressing the purpose and mission of the congregation? Listen, how is the budget expressing the purpose and mission of the congregation? As I told you, if I see a budget, I can see easily what are the values and purpose of the congregation. I think that was everything. Remember, budgeting isn't about limiting yourself. It's about making the things, in this case, making the ministry that exacts you possible. Thank you so much. And Rosario Ibarra is my name. You have here my email, my phone number. Call me or shoot me an email. I always willing to visit you or contact you now virtually, right? So hope to see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.